Welcome everyone to the Planning Committee. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I know we were one or two.
Yeah, from Christine Richards and Paulette Smith, Chairman.
No others here. I haven't heard of Mike White.
No, Mike's present.
All right, I can. Okay. Oh yes, welcome, Mike. Item 2 then. Any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests? No.
No.
Okay, thank you. So item 3 is to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record. You can see that on pages 1 to 3. So if we go to page 1, page 2, and page 3, and somebody move them as a true record, please.
Yeah, move.
Thank you. And then we move to item 4 on the agenda, which you see on page 4, is the provisional tree order preservation order, TPO 671, land adjacent to 42 Cloyne Close in Sketty. And is that over to you first, Ian?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this report was reported to committee in December, where committee deferred consideration of the matter to allow one of the objectors to the TPO to address committee. In March of 2020, a provisional tree preservation order was served on 2 trees at land adjacent to 42 Cloyne Close. That provisional tree preservation order lasts for 6 months, after which, unless the TPO is confirmed by committee, the provisional order lapses. Since last committee, a further provisional TPO has been served to ensure that the trees are protected. Your officers consider the trees add significantly to the visual amenity of the area, which is why the provisional TPO has been placed on them and why the recommendation is seeking confirmation that the TPO be placed on those trees. Members will note from the report that there have been 2 objections to the tree preservation order, and they're set out in detail in the report. And one of the ward members has identified that the TPO actually says land adjacent to 42 Cloyne Close, whereas the correct address is 42 Cloyne Close. That's an issue I understand with the GIS mapping, so that's been identified. So if the TPO is confirmed, the correct address will be put on the tree preservation order. The purpose of the TPO is to ensure the long-term protection of the trees. Having a TPO on the trees doesn't prevent work being undertaken. As members will be aware, there is well-established procedures where if anyone wants to carry out works to protected trees, they can make an application. There's no fee for those applications, and providing the works are reasonable and necessary, there will be no grounds to withhold consent to carry out those works. I understand that there is currently an application submitted to carry out works on the tree because the provisional TPO does protect those trees. That application's currently being considered. And I understand that some work has been done to the trees in the period between the initial provisional order lapsing and the new one being served, and those works were undertaken in conjunction with the authority and agreement from the tree officer. So the works that have been undertaken are satisfactory. So obviously the one of the objectors is due to address committee, but from your officer's point of view, we're recommending that the TPO be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you for that. My omission, yeah, it does say Cloyne Close. Shall we, Alan, you didn't want to speak, or no? Okay. No?
Just to reiterate that you know, a second order has been served as a temporary measure and to cover the trees in this time where the previous one doesn't give the protection. And of course, no matter what the outcome of today, that will be extinguished because obviously it's just a carbon copy of it.
Chair, can I ask Alan a question?
Did we do that now or after Mr. Sparks?
I'll do it now. I don't know, whenever.
shall we let Mr. Stanton speak first then? Yeah. Mr. Stanton, you have your 5 minutes to address the committee now, and welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. The main reason stated by the Planning Authority for imposing the TPO on the oak tree at the bottom of my garden is that the tree is perceived to be under threat. Although it is probably unusual for you not to support the recommendations of a planning officer, I hope I can prove to you through the actions I've taken thus far that the tree is not under any threat. The tree is not at risk, and I've employed qualified and experienced tree surgeons at great expense when I could quite easily have had the tree cut back severely or removed when there's no TPO or protection. I do care passionately about the local amenity of the area, the health of the trees, and the area which I've lived in the majority of my life. I believe I've acted responsibly by contacting the Planning Authority either personally or through an agent to ensure I was taking all the necessary steps before carrying out any work on the tree. In January 2020, local tree surgeon, Mr. Leon Thomas, contacted Mr. Alan Webster to check if there was a TPO on the tree. As there was no TPO there at this stage, I could quite easily have contacted any contractor to hack away the tree or even remove it completely. However, I contacted another tree surgeon, Miss Rachel Downs, to carry out the removal of the ivy, which was choking the tree, and also do a very minimal and sympathetic thinning of the canopy. Following this work then, on the 31st of March, a provisional TPO was served on the tree, following just one complaint from a single household. I then subsequently put in an appeal. In August, I contacted Mr. Alan Webster to check how long a provisional TPO could remain in force. And he replied saying that after 6 months, the order does not provide any protection unless having been confirmed. Therefore, I knew that from October onwards, the tree was no longer protected by the TPO. So once again, I could have contacted any contractor with a chainsaw to hack away or even remove the tree entirely. However, because I care about the local community and the local area where I've lived, I once again contacted Mr. Alan Webster, both personally and via another tree surgeon, Mr. Andy Bramall of Monkey Tree Care. And that even though an application wasn't necessary at that stage, I recommended that Andy Bramall still put in an application for a sympathetic reduction of just 18 inches to improve the tree's shape and to comply with highway regulations. Over the past year, I've spent over £1,400 on experienced qualified tree surgeons as further proof of my intent to care for the tree. Going forward, I intend to work with local residents to improve the amenity of the land at the back of my property, adjacent to the school where all my grandchildren attend. The area has been decimated by a complete removal of the hedgerow trees and shrubs by the building contractor who built the houses where I live now. This bank has now become an eyesore and has led to severe flooding problems on Cloymouth Close. One of the ways I hope to improve the amenity of the area and reduce flooding problems is by planting semi-mature trees, evergreens and shrubs on this bank. I'm also in contact with local councillor Cheryl Philpott and Mr. David Turner, asset manager for the authority, to discuss further ways to reverse this decline and improve the amenity of the area. I trust I have demonstrated to the committee that I have acted as a responsible citizen, and the work I propose will mitigate the removal of the TPO. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Stanton. Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Evans, you wanted to ask a question first?
You're on mute. Well, you're on mute, Councillor Evans. Okay, you hear me now? Yeah. Sorry about that. I thought, Gareth, you were going to unmute people when they... No, I can't unmute people. I can only... No problem. Just a quick question, Alan. In relation to T1, the mature oak tree, what is the age of that tree, approximate?
Hard to tell exactly. Well, in excess of 100 years, I would say.
Yeah. So it's a very, very good age on the tree then, isn't it? 100 years.
Yes.
Okay. That'll answer that question. I'll come in with something else later. Thank you.
Councillor Mary Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little bit concerned or probably puzzled. As Mr. Stanton wants to save the tree and is actually paying to have works done on it, I can't understand what the objection is then to a TPO which will protect the tree in perpetuity. For example, if Mr. Stanton moved and someone else moved in, then obviously they may not be as kind and caring towards the natural environment as he is. And I am concerned that I can't really see the point of the objection if he's actually looking after the tree and has done a lot of work to try and extend the life of the tree. And I would think that this would be the way forward, is to make sure that this tree is protected, because we all know in all our wards that trees do get cut down, even with TPOs on them. And at least we have some recompense if the tree has a TPO. At least we can take people to court over it. Not that I'm suggesting this is going to happen here. I'm just talking generally there. Thank you.
Fair point. Okay. Now, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, just a point to Ian or Alan, I think stated it. If we do put a TPO on this, and Mr. Stanton is still willing to look after the tree, would it be to no cost to him, only to pay a tree surgeon to do it?
Yes, the only additional thing that Mr. Stanton has to do is actually make an application when he wants to do work. And as Ian said, there's no cost to that. It just needs a little bit of forward planning, but I feel that's a reasonable burden to suffer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I first of all say thanks and congratulations to Mr. Stanton for the way he's managed this tree and the way and the way he's considering managing the trees in the area. I think it's commendable that someone is very concerned about the environment, and obviously the tree planting will also mitigate other problems which he's got, and I think that's very important. But I think Mary Jones does have a very important point, that a tree preservation order is there to future-proof the future of a tree. And this tree is a particularly splendid specimen. It's one which stands out in the area and a very important one to the area. And I think it's only right that as a committee, we do carry out that future proofing. Now, I understand perfectly Mr. Stanton may feel that there's some extra bureaucracy involved in terms of his tending to the tree. And, that is an unfortunate side effect of having a tree preservation order. But clearly, he may not be around forever. Other people will occupy that house. That tree may have another 100 years or so in it. I don't know the life of trees, and clearly other people will have an interest in what happens to that tree. So I think it's important that we as an authority put in place some protections to the tree and to ensure that it is future proof as much as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Richard Lewis.
Well, Chairman, I think the gentleman concerned has done an excellent job. Unfortunately, maybe people in the past have cut trees down, but I think that he's done an exemplary. He's got first-class people in to help him. He's done a great job. I think we've been heavy-handed on putting a tree preservation order in. I think if the house is, we're looking, he may live there for another 30 years. I don't know. He's a current there. He hasn't suggested he's going to move out at any time soon, and I think we have to take his word for it. And as far as I'm concerned, and knowing one or two of the people he's had looking at the trees and their reputation, I would certainly object to putting this on. We've had this elsewhere in Sketty, where tree preservation orders have been put on, and in the end, we actually our little committee has taken them off because of inaccurate and wrong locations. I'm quite happy to leave it as it is, and I certainly won't be supporting a tree preservation order.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Lewis?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, fine. Couple of questions, really. Can I ask officers, would the original planning permission have been granted on this site if the application had included the removal of these 2 trees? That's the first question. The other question is to Alan Webster. Why did you feel it was necessary to issue a temporary TPO after Mr. Stanton had indicated he would like to lop and crown the oak tree at his address? As Mr. Stanton has stated, he has no desire to harm these trees in any way, but he was only seeking to lop and crown them, which he's prepared to pay to be professionally done. Can you, as officers, confirm today before this committee makes any decision on the TPO that Mr. Stanton can make, if Mr. Stanton makes an application to lop and crown the trees, that such an application would be recommended by officers, and really in doing so would achieve Mr. Stanton's objectives? Seems to me Mr. Stanton could be reassured that this would be the case by this committee accepting officers' recommendations for a TPO on these trees. Then this really would satisfy all parties. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Chair.
Cheers. Alan?
The second TPO was put on because, as we've explained, the trees weren't covered. The second objector, who has objected to T2, I became aware that he intended to do work, and we subsequently received an application just before Christmas to do work to that tree under the new TPO, or this one, whichever one, if this continues. And the work they've requested is quite severe and wouldn't be approved. So that's the reason for the TPO, to have some control. A lot of people look to do extensive work, not in Mr. Stanton's case. It's just a check mechanism. If we couldn't say in the future, if Mr. Stanton wanted to severely pollard the tree or cut it down to a couple meters, we would approve that. There'd be no point in keeping the TPO on it. But anything that's reasonable, we wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, can I come back there, Chair?
Of course.
I did ask the question, perhaps it's better directed to Ian Davis, about the planning permission, the original planning permission on the site.
You're on mute, Ian.
Sorry, the tree was shown as being retained as part of the original planning permission. There were conditions on that planning permission which protected the existing trees. If the proposal had shown the trees to be removed, I would have thought that we were likely to object to it because there was no apparent reason for their removal. It wasn't affecting the scheme directly. So on that basis, I don't think we'd have supported their removal. If the scheme was slightly different and there was justification for removal, we would then have looked for mitigation planting for loss of those trees. But as I say, the scheme that came into us, they were shown to be retained and there was no justification for their removal.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, okay. What have we got? Councillor Evans, you got your hand up there for a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just first of all, can I say I fully support the comments by Councillor Mary Jones, followed up by Councillor Black. The main purpose of the TPO, as we all know, is to protect its long-term life. In other words, for many, many years, in perpetuity. That's what it is. Irrespective of what Mr. Stanton's done, which is very commendable, and I commend him for that, we've got to look for the future. And that tree needs to be protected in perpetuity. So I don't see what the fuss is about. by, you know, putting a cross argument in that he's done this and done that, which is great, no problem. But we are where we are. The tree needs to be protected for future life.
Okay, thank you. I got Councillor Linda Tyler-Lloyd next. And then Councillor Anderson, you got your hand up as well still? No? All right. And then it'll be Mike White after that. So, Councillor Lloyd. No? I'll come back to you. All right. Councillor Mike White.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. 2 points if I could, please. Why is it only now that we realise we need to put a TPO on this tree and it's taken so long as an authority? And secondly, points about the developer not doing what he should have done into the landscaping under the planning consent which we were given in 2015-16. You know, we should have been chasing that up, as I say, as a matter of urgency. So those are the 2 points I would like actually answered if possible.
Sorry, did you want to come back to that now, or anyone? Or I got sorry.
Sorry, Chair. The original site, I believe, was prior to me being in post, just by a little bit, I think. You know, I think committee agreed that with when they discussed the new supplementary planning guidance on trees the other week, that trees should be covered by TPO if we could include that on a development site. So you know, we're getting there with new developments and covering trees as they happen. This is from some time ago. I wasn't aware of the tree particularly until the start of last year.
Okay, thank you for that. And then oh, sorry, yeah.
Just to clarify, Chair, that in terms of the breach of the condition regarding the landscaping scheme, there is a current enforcement investigation ongoing into that, so we're already looking into it.
Excellent. Councillor Linda Tyler-Lloyd, you still with us? You got your hand up there? Yeah.
No, I just think that it's a wonderful job that Mr. Stanton has done, and I can understand him being very protective over this tree, because it's almost like having a pet. I mean, he's really spent a lot of money, a lot of time, and he's emotionally tied up with this. And I think that on one hand, I think that there should be a TPO on it. On the other hand, I think that Mr. Stanton needs to be watching very carefully, because we've seen things going amiss all the time. So I think that we need both these. I think we need Mr. Stanton keeping a very good eye on it, and I think that we need the TPO on it. That's all.
Right. Thank you for that. Is there any? Can't see any other hands up. No. Ian, your hand is still up there, and no. Nothing.
Wanted really to come in and summarise the situation. I think.
Please do.
You know, obviously, the intention, as members have indicated, is to protect the tree long term, and the purpose of the TPO is to provide that protection. As has been mentioned, there are procedures to allow works to be undertaken, and there's some works. Deadwood, for example, don't even need an application. You know, the works can be undertaken under the Tree Preservation Order regulation. So, as officers, we feel the long-term protection of the tree is best achieved through a tree preservation order. Notwithstanding the efforts of Mr. Stanton to carry out and look after that tree, long term the situation could change. Could have different residents in the area, and the tree could be under threat from other people, which is why the officer recommendation is to impose the TPO.
Yep, thank you. I see no other hands up now then. So, members, you know, we've heard everyone speak here, and Mr. Stanton very eloquent speech there, and we've had a good discussion amongst members as well, and good responses from the officers. So we see before us now on page 4, the recommendation there is that the tree preservation order on the land adjacent to 42 Cloynmawr Close in Sketty be confirmed. We will now move to the vote then, and Gareth, you want to?
No, it'll be a verbal one, Chairman. We haven't got the technology yet.
Will you,
So if I call members' names out, if you can say for, against, or abstain as usual. Councillor Anderson.
For.
Councillor Black.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Jones.
For.
Councillor Lewis. Mike Lewis.
For.
Councillor Richard
For.
Lewis.
Against.
Councillor Tyler Lloyd.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Paul Lloyd.
I'm for. Thank you.
That's it. 8 for, 1 against, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Carried.
Thank you all, and a very shorter agenda today. So our next meeting then, we will meet again on the 2nd of February. Thank you, members. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Chairman, Cheers, committee.